Today we are going to talk about applications of cell culture. We have all handled mammalian cell culture, particularly SHSY5Y cell line, which is a human neuroblastoma cell line. It is a mixed kind of cell line which grows mostly as adherent, some can be as well as floating. So just like SHSY5Y cell line which we have been handling, there are many other cell cultures obtained from different tissues, different organisms, and could be a permanent cell line, could be a temporary cell line, or even could be primary cultures. We know that even insect cells can be cultured. Now, depending upon what is the requirement of our study, we can choose these different cell lines. Whether we want an adherent cell line, whether we want suspension cell line, whether we want mammalian cell line or an insect cell line will depend upon our requirement. So today we are going to talk about these requirements. Before we move on to the actual application part, we should know the advantage and disadvantage of cell culture. Why are we so much focusing on cell culture? Why can't we directly use animal cell model? Is there any associated advantage of cell cultures? Definitely. Cell culture can be easily given a controlled environment. You can control the pH, temperature, osmotic pressure, or oxygen level. You can keep it in a tightly controlled physico-chemical environment. Whereas in case of animals, all you can do is to keep in a controlled environment. But their physiology you will not be able to control. So that is the first advantage, very tight regulation of the environment. Second, there is an homogeneity of cell types. If you are growing neuronal cells, you are growing only neuronal cells. You know what kind of cell line or what kind of cells you are working with. But in case of animal models, it's an entire organism. There are different tissues, different cells, and all these organs, all these tissues are interacting amongst themselves. So to actually deduce a clear-cut result from an animal model could be a little difficult. Therefore, it is always advised to do the preliminary studies in the cell line where you can actually regulate the environment, you can study a particular pathway in a particular type of cell. It is obviously economical because you can control the volume of cells which you are culturing. You need not have n number of animals. You can tightly regulate the amount of media, the amount of culture requirements that you need to spend. And on top of all this, animals are lives. We cannot just we cannot just experiment directly on any living organism. We must have preliminary data to support that yes, our research is working, yes, the molecules which we are working on is safe to take, then only we can move on to the animal level. Because here we are talking about actual living organisms. We cannot sacrifice living organisms for nothing. We should have clear-cut ethical approval before we actually can take our research to the animal model. For cell lines, therefore, gives us the preliminary model system where we can start our research. So these are the associated advantages. Now, what is the disadvantage? Obviously, we need expertise. Like you all have been doing the practical experiments. You know how difficult it is to handle cell culture. Particularly when you sit in that biosafety hood, you realize that your hands are shaking. You realize that your serological pipette is touching everywhere. So that needs practice, needs expertise. So this is obviously a disadvantage. The media, the FBS or the serum, whatever we are using, it is definitely expensive. So we cannot afford to waste it. We know that all these culture requirements are fairly expensive and we should use these judiciously. The major disadvantage of culturing a cell line is its instability. The cell lines can mutate or change very fast. Just because they are being derived from cancerous cells, mostly they already have a chromosomal aberration which can get further amplified. So that is this instability is the major problem of handling cell culture if you are particularly deriving it from a transformed line. So that becomes a severe disadvantage. You cannot correlate the data which you are getting from a cancerous or transformed cell lines 100% to a normal cell. If you are doing your experiments in a neuroblastoma cell line, you cannot expect 100% correlation if you are culturing it in a primary neurons. So that is obviously a major disadvantage. Keeping in mind all these advantages and disadvantages of cell culture, we are still using the cell culture extensively because it provides a very effective mechanism, very effective model system for carrying out the preliminary research and even for production. In our last class, we talked about large-scale cell culture. Why do we need large-scale cell culture? Because we are trying to use that cell culture to produce some kind of recombinant proteins. And that is one application of cell culture these days. So we will study about the applications one by one in the coming slides. Now let's talk about the actual applications of cell culture. Cell culture acts as a very good model system for studying the basic cell biology as well as biochemistry. Let's say if you are trying to study various types of signaling pathways that you can study, you can very well pinpoint the proteins which are actually getting involved in the cell signaling pathway. Not only proteins, you can actually study the transcription factor upregulation, downregulation, if there are any changes in the activation of nuclear markers, cell markers. Those things can be very well done with the help of cell culture. In terms of biochemistry, if you are trying to study the activity of various kinds of enzymes, uptake of various kinds of substrates, effect of metabolism of various kinds of substrates, all that also you can see with the help of cell culture. If you are trying to study the interaction of disease-causing agents with the cells, that can be done very well. You can infect the cells with different types of disease-causing pathogens and try to see their effect on the cellular morphology or cellular cytoarchitecture, cellular protein expression, as well as any changes in the genomic material. All that can be done in the cell culture model. Effects of drugs. If you are trying to study a new scaffold, new moiety for the treatment of a particular disease, the first thing that you need to assure is it does not have any toxicity. So the toxicity assay needs to be first carried out in cell lines. Then you move on to the cell viability assays. Like one of the cell viability assays which we have done is the MTT assay, which is very regularly being practiced for checking the cell viability under the effects of various drug molecules. The next thing that you need to assure under the effects of drugs is to check their uptake. Is the drug being taken up by the cell or not? What is the intracellular availability of that particular molecule? Compared to the amount of drug which you have administered, how much of it has gone inside the cell? Those things need to be calculated. And then you go on to check their actual effect, either on some particular pathway or on cell morphology or cellular physiology, etc. Nowadays, people are also trying to study the course of aging, that is cellular senescence. So we have various other pathways which are actively involved in cell senescence. And since there are multiple pathways working together, cellular system gives a very easily handled model system to study all these different pathways individually as well as then correlating their interactions with one another. So for studying cellular aging also, cellular models are very important. And of course the nutrition. If you are trying to study the effect of some particular growth factor, some particular kind of hormone, some particular kind of nutrient component, let's say vitamin B12, these things can be easily done in case of cell lines. You just give the supplement. The particular supplement can be easily controlled in what quantity you want to give, and then you can see for how long it needs to be given to see a particular effect. So all that nutritional studies can be done using the cell system or cell culture as a model system. Next is toxicity testing. As we discussed that for any kind of new drug molecule which can be tested or which needs to be tested for against a particular disease, first it has to be ascertained that it does not cause any kind of toxicity. So we need to carry out these toxicity experiments in the healthy cells as well as under the affected cells, and then see if it is causing any kind of necrosis, any kind of cell death, change in the cellular physiology or morphology. That will tell us whether the drug molecule is having any toxicity or not. Most of our cell lines are derived from the cancerous cells. Hence, they provide a very good model system for studying a particular type of cancer. Let's say we want to study cervical cancer. So HeLa provides a very good model. Let's trying to study some breast cancer. So MCF7 gives a very good model system. Since we have these particular cell lines available from particular tissues, it becomes easier for us to study the pathophysiology in a particular cancer type in the cell line in which it is getting caused. Moreover, since we have the normal cells also available as well as cancer cells also available of the same tissue, then it gives us an easy handle to generate a comparative study. Basic differences that is happening in the normal cells and cancer cells can be very well chalked down. It is also easy to convert a cultured cell into a cancerous cell by using different types of radiations or mutagenic chemicals, viruses, and then you know what is the exact molecular change that has happened in the particular normal cell to convert it into a cancerous cell. So that gives us a technique for understanding the molecular level changes that are occurring in the cancer physiology. Since we have the cultured cancer cells, we can also check the effects of various scaffolds and moieties which we are trying to develop as treatment against those particular cancer cell lines. So for us, easier to check the toxicity, check the bioavailability, uptake, and then the effect of these drugs in the cancer cell lines. Cell culture is also important to study viruses. We all know that virus does not replicate in the outside environment. It needs a living cell to proliferate, to replicate itself, to show its own physiology. So if I want to study the normal physiology of a virus, normal structure of a virus, the only way we can do is to give it a living system. And what is the easiest living system to give? That is the culture system. So for virus replication, cell culture is a very important tool. Some viruses are specific for plants, some are specific for animals, some are specific for insects. So depending upon what is the virus we are trying to study, we can change the host cell also. We can detect as well as isolate viruses from such culture systems. Recently, we have been facing this pandemic of coronavirus, and most of the structural studies as well as confirmation of different physiological aspects related to this virus is being done in the cell culture system in isolated research laboratories. So cell culture system gives a very good handle or very good model system for clinical detection and isolation of viruses. We can study the growth parameters, we can study the infection mode of the virus as well using these cell culture system. In our last class, we talked about large-scale cell culture, where we said that these large-scale cell cultures are used as factories for producing different types of biological products. These biological products could be vaccines, could be monoclonal antibodies, could be some different kind of peptides, recombinant peptides. One of the very commonly used recombinant peptides for treatment of diabetes is insulin, very widely being produced using the cell culture system. We can also produce different types of hormones. Earlier, isolating these proteins from the actual cell system was a very big hassle because you get a minimal amount of protein from the actual cells. So you have to culture huge amount of cells to get minimal substantial amount of protein out of it. But now with the help of recombinant DNA technology, what we can do, we can overexpress all these biological products in particular type of cell lines, particular type of cell types, insect cell or mammalian cell or rodent cell, and then use those produced biologics for different types of purposes. Cell culture is nowadays being widely used for creating artificial organs. People who need skin replacement or replacement of liver, kidney, these are being done using creating artificial organs. Induced pluripotent stem cell culture is providing one of the major model system for developing artificial organs. Here the cells of patient is isolated, de-differentiated, and then re-differentiated into the type of organ which is required to replace the defunctional organ. So such kind of development is also very useful in case of tissue engineering or creating organ replacements. We all know about the technique of amniocentesis. It is a diagnostic technique for diagnosing early fetal disorders. Now, when we are detecting these disorders, we are using techniques of karyotyping, which we have already studied, like chromosome painting and other molecular techniques, which will tell us whether the fetus has a normal genetic material, normal genome or not. In case there is a drastic change or there is a risk of developing a disorder, it can help in counseling the parents whether to proceed with the pregnancy or not. So cell culture is also helping in genetic counseling. And now with the help of genetic engineering and gene therapy, cell culture is giving an important handle to produce recombinant proteins to treat various types of disorders, genetic abnormalities, etc. The content of this presentation has been taken from Applications of Cell Culture Studies in Pharmaceutical Technology, published in 2017 in Acta Pharmaceutica Scientia, and Cell Culture Technology Enhancing the Culture of Diagnosing Human Diseases, published in Journal of Clinical Diagnostic and Research in 2016. Thank you.